Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Great Malabite Efeni.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Quite lyrical and musical. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning,
Yes,
sir.
we start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, INEC's application to reconfigure BVAS, raising integrity questions. Commission has on need to reset devices before their deployment for governorship, state houses of assembly polls. Yes, this development, INEC asking to reconfigure the BVAS equipment before the next polls coming up in about 4 days' time. Now, if INEC did not anticipate that parties will ask for inspection of these election materials after the presidential poll, then there's a problem about planning at the headquarters of INEC. Because recall that the Osun election, immediately after the Osun election, the APC asked for what the BVAS recorded. And they were given almost immediately. Of course, the basis of INEC challenging the tribunal verdict on the Osun election, which has upturned the poll, the basis of INEC contesting that judgment is the fact that the immediate result, and in fact they made that known at the tribunal, that what they gave to the APC candidate was not the full result, that results were still downloading thereafter. And as such, the figures they used to contest the outcome of that election at the tribunal may not be the exact replica of what actually transpired. Just to paraphrase what INEC said. So, in view of that development, shouldn't INEC have made some arrangement that indeed parties, irrespective of who wins, are likely to ask for the inspection of these materials immediately after the polls? So if INEC is now saying, oh, we want the BVAS, want to reconfigure the BVAS before the next election, yes, there's suspicion. It raises question of integrity, because INEC must also tell Nigerians and the world what will happen to the machine after reconfiguration. Will the data stored in that equipment remain the same after reconfiguration? I think these are questions INEC must answer as they apply for this. Yes, for those who say INEC is trying to blackmail Nigerians with this application, well, they may not be far from the truth. But INEC has to do things more transparently, as it were. Now, we just look at another story just above the lead story. PDP, ample evidence shows INEC deliberate complicity to rig presidential election. Of course, that's PDP's claim yesterday as they protested the outcome of the presidential poll. Of course, Atiku was there leading other members of the party yesterday. As the Guardian newspaper is reporting, Atiku leads supporters to INEC, threatens daily protests. INEC owes allegiance to Nigerians, not any political party, says Okoye. Yet Festus Okoye received the petition from the PDP on behalf of the INEC chair. Retire from politics, go to Dubai, stop embarrassing yourself, Tinubu tells Atiku. Well, these are words from the spokespersons. I'll be surprised if Tinubu were to utter this word. So perhaps we'll continue to caution those who speak for president-elect and those who speak for presidential candidate, that they must bridle their tongue in order not to cause more tension in the land. But when there's already a president-elect, those around him will be falling over ears to be more zealous, because those words, I'm not sure Bola Ahmed Tinubu will utter such words, but presidential spokespersons at liberty, perhaps, to tell us what the president-elect is saying. And that seemed to be their brief. Now, if we look at Daily Trust newspaper, Naira crisis, queues for cash persist. Customers bribe bank officials. Banks pay old notes in Kano, Abuja, Ibadan. Customers decry poor electronic services. I think the CBN need to come out with clarity on what is the next step. Because after the Supreme Court judgment declaring that the old currencies are still valid till December 31, we need to hear some pronouncement from the Apex Bank, because what we are reporting now, and number of newspapers in parts of the countries, people are collecting old notes, and the banks are even paying out old notes. So I think there should be some clarity on that, on the position. Of course, the Supreme Court judgment cannot be altered. So, but we need clear directive from the CBN to banks so that Nigerians have full picture of what is happening. Of course, the Leadership newspaper is reporting 10th National Assembly leadership. APC leaders move to douse tension over sharing formulas. Seek audience with Tinubu. Lawan Gbajabiamila may be shut out as Sani Musa joins race. Public holiday forces lawmakers' inauguration date to June 13. Yes, of course, the issue of who becomes the next Senate president. And yesterday, I mentioned the fact that president-elect, if he stays so on May 29 and Tinubu becomes the president, the Speaker of the House of Representatives will be coming from the same state with the president. So what will happen? Key positions to be shared among the 6 geopolitical zones. President, vice president, taken already. Southwest and Northeast. Now, 4 positions, key positions. Secretary to the Government of the Federation available. President of the Senate. Of course, Chief Justice of Nigeria already in the Southwest. And of course, will the Speaker's position remain in the Southwest? Of course, the APC is one of the headaches they have to deal with if on May 29, APC's Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumes office as the president. The president-elect is right now. Now, the New Telegraph newspaper, INEC seeks cost permission to reconfigure BVAS. And below the photograph, Naira redesignation, relief as banks resume old 500, 1,000 notes disbursement. That's what the papers are reporting there. Now, the Daily Sun newspaper, APC Mock PDP as Atiku Ayu lead protest to INEC. Main opposition party insists on cancellation of presidential poll. We have no allegiance to any party. INEC insists. Of course, I just intervened, and of course, earlier in the news segment, you dealt with this matter that you don't need to mock anybody. The right to protest is one that is guaranteed in the Constitution. And the fact that they have resorted to peaceful protest is within the rights of the PDP's candidate and PDP supporters. Yes, and that protest was peaceful, and if they want to continue, it must remain peaceful. And the police must provide adequate security so that hoodlums don't come and attack or hijack what otherwise has been a peaceful protest. Beside the masthead of the Daily Sun newspaper, yes, Senate presidency, APC tips Southeast. Move meant to achieve balance of power sharing, says party chieftain. Yes. Now, the Daily Independent newspaper, CBN mom over Supreme Court's order as banks issue old notes. Yes. CBN should say something. And that is what the newspaper is reporting. The Nigerian Tribune, as Atiku Ayu protests, PDP makes 5-point declaration to INEC on presidential poll. Now, if we go back to this day, another aspect of the presidential election that may just be waiting in the corner for court case, this day lawyer, if I think we have it there, if we put it up, is 25% of FCT votes required to win a presidential election. Legal luminaries are speaking. Yes, Dr. Olisa Agbakoba, Femi Falana, Professor Taiwo Oshepiton, Mike Zekome, Sam Amadi, and of course, Haikunegbe Malik, all airing their views on this constitutional provision, which is yet to be tested at the courts. Of course, last week, Andoaka, the former Attorney General of the Federation, gave the impression that that provision is a very relevant one that may just be there for the courts to decide. If one of the candidates decide to stress that because the president-elect did not score 25% in the FCT. Now, if we look at the foreign newspapers quickly, the Times of London, Prime Minister plans annual cap on number of refugees. Ministers brace up for legal battle over migration bill. Of course, the migration bill, the Home Secretary will be under pressure, under illegal duty, under illegal duty to remove nearly all asylum seekers who arrive on small boats. And of course, the duty take precedence over human rights and modern slavery claims. According to the bill, that of course a number of parliamentarians are bracing up for this bill because they believe it shouldn't see the light of day. Now, the Guardian newspaper revealed biggest super-emitting methane leaks threatening climate. Yes, worst site discharges pollution equivalent to the impact of 67 million cars. More than 1,000 super-emitter sites gushed the potent greenhouse gas methane into the global atmosphere in 2022. The worst single leak spewed the pollution at a rate of equivalent of 67 million cars a day. And of course, this is mainly from the oil and gas sector. And I'm sure environmentalists will be worried. But before I come over to you, we just look at what the Independent newspaper is reporting. Arise, Sadat. Yes. Outrageous, ridiculous. For services to what? The question. Tories, yes, of course, senior conservatives are saying if they allow what Boris Johnson has proposed to the knighthood to his father to happen, then there will be, that in itself will be discrediting the system. And of course, it will corrode public trust. Ruben, Rufai, and Ayo.
They're right. Like we said yesterday, you see, we cannot allow for a society just to go to ruins because what people do favor us. And I'm happy that the Tory party is standing up to Boris Johnson. For what did Stanley Johnson do? Is it for being a very bad family man?
For raising a child that became prime minister.
Is he for being a very bad family? Should we go into the ordeals of what happened in the family unit and the mother of Boris Johnson? Should we go into all of that? We shouldn't even start there. So there was little or no service to the nation. He doesn't deserve a knighthood, pure and simple. Boris Johnson should not use his influence. He just snuck that in before he left as prime minister. But we should always call a spade a spade. Because if that passes, that has just also become like the honors list in Nigeria.
No. Why you?
No, I mean pure and simple. I mean I've just said what I had to say. Pure and simple. It has just become like that. Also, as regards the oil sector, that is one of the biggest methane emitters. I'm sure the developed nations now know that whatever they do as regards green energy is a lot of hypocrisy. They have industrialized. We are still trying to industrialize. We've not gotten our acts together. And now they're talking about green energy and all of that. But they are the highest emitter. See what happened in East Palestine in Ohio. The chemical spills on 2 occasions. See the effect on the lives of people. So who are the highest emitters in the first place? It's all of these developed industrialized nations. And now they're telling us we don't have a right to be able to develop at our own pace. And that's where the problem lies. So you can see them, you can look at the hypocrisy. When the Russian war started, the same climate activist the West made, Greta Thunberg, she became a villain when she went to campaign against tearing down the German city to turn it into a coal mine. These same people, the hypocrisy of the West. Moving on to local stories. I mean, there are going to be a lot of run-ins, and I'm happy that you've been able to call a spade concerning what the APC said as regards the PDP protesting. We don't want vile rhetoric like that. But it is not for the surrogates of the APC to be able to talk like that. The president-elect too should be able to call them to order and say, please do not do this. At least, I know people can be overzealous because of their own personal games, but we should see beyond that. And the 25% is still a very big argument back and forth. Based on what you said on Handwaka said, there's been a reaction. I saw another counter article saying that Handwaka wasn't correct as regards his claims and all of that. But, it will pan out. But real quickly, for our jurisprudence, I think we should be able to learn from Kenya that completes their electoral petition, presidential electoral commission activities a week or 2 after the elections before swearing in. I think that's where we should be able to go now. Start learning from other jurisdictions as regards doing things on time. Because this idea of waiting for someone to be sworn in before we complete our election petition is problematic. Let's learn from Kenya.
No, we're not going yet. I need to comment on Stanley Johnson.
Yes.
Yesterday we made a point that the major criticism is about nepotism, about cronyism. In 2020, he made his brother. He recommended him for a peerage, and he became Lord Johnson of Marylebone. Now it is his father. But Stanley Johnson himself is not an unknown quantity. He was a member of the European Parliament from about 1979 to 1984. He's also a major author, on environment and other issues. So it's not as if the father of Boris Johnson is without substance. But the concern is that...
So it's not out of the blue.
Yeah, so the concern is that Boris Johnson, had recommended his brother. He's now recommending his father for a knighthood. However, the thing to note is that it's not automatic that, in the resignation honors list, Boris Johnson has made that recommendation. That list will still be reviewed by the Cabinet Review Office. However, the main story this morning is that concerned British persons are, asking Rishi Sunak not to allow Boris Johnson to get away with it. Finally, the other issue is to draw attention to what happened in South Africa yesterday, where President Cyril Ramaphosa adjusted the cabinet, did a brief cabinet reshuffle, and he now has a new electricity minister. Because electricity is a big problem. Even the Central Bank of South Africa has reviewed expected GDP growth to just about 0.3%. And the problem with ESCOM, which is 100 years old this month, has caused so much problem in South Africa. And when we talk in Nigeria that, look, if you don't have electricity, the economy will suffer. South Africa just proved that point. The only other person that was dropped was the tourism minister, who had the effrontery to be rude to the president.
So it's a minor cabinet reshuffle, actually.
Well, more or less. But the big issue is the fact that an electricity minister has been appointed.
Ministers don't lose their job here based on power grid collapse.
Anyway, thank you.
Even if it happens over and over again.
Thank you, Emmanuel. We need to go now.